Ladies and gentlemen, without much ado, we'll invite all of us to rise up for a keynote address by Dr. Paul K. FOKAM, the founding president of PK FOKAM Institute of Excellence, who doubles up as the president of the Board of Trustees of the institution. Mr. President, you're welcome.
Thank you. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your presence in this exceptional ceremony, the first ceremony for PK FOKAM Award for Science and Technology. I am very pleased to see you honoring this ceremony. This is the first ceremony in PK FOKAM Institute of Excellence. My presentation is going to be about Africa Global Playground. I have been asked to address this keynote for this special ceremony. As you see in the map, all the keyword economic power are their flats floating in Africa. This is what we are going to discuss. In reality, why this happened, how this happened, and how to survive. My presentation is going to be in 5 key parts. The first one is all about the state. It means the second, we are to say about the actors, the major economic and military actors. The instrument will be the third, the playground, in exactly what ground we are doing this work. And at the final point, we are going to draw a conclusion by saying that Africa must change or disappear. We are going to talk about the state. Why many flats are concentrating in Africa? Why this concentration of key world power in our continent? Is first because our population. Our population, the population in Africa is 1.3 billion today. This population is composed of the youngest population are between 14 to 25. Let us say exactly that 60% of the total population is under 40. 200 million Africans are between 14 and 25. The second part of our discussion is about the huge commodity reserves we have in Africa, such a way that we have 40% of the world gold reserve in Africa, 60% of cobalt in Africa, 90% of platinum in Africa, 30% of world non-mineral reserve. That means we have a huge concentration of important reserve in our continent. But the other part of this discussion is about our land. We have a very good agroecological diversity. We have forests, we have savanna, highlands, etc. This is very good for agriculture. 60% of the world unexploited land is in Africa, according to the estimation of FAO. We are in a playground, in battle. What is the prey? Who is the prey? In this case, the prey is Africa. And very interesting prey because of his natural resources, his poor educational system, and poor military power. Who are the predators? In this case, we have many key powerful countries in the world. United States, France, Germany, China, India, Russia, and many others. And this make Africa very, very weak. And they are using a lot of instruments, bilateral and multilateral cooperation, NGO and media, Bretton Woods institution, etc., to perpetuate their hegemony over Africa. Talking about instruments, the first instrument we have to emphasize on is multilateral cooperation. It defines international governance standards and distribute representation power, which assign Africa a very insignificant place. Africa is always victim of vetoes, resolution, interventions, aid programs, etc., all of which have been toxic for African progress. The second instrument is international media. The international media are influencing our means, produce subservient behavior, and enable foreign domination. Programs are intended to instill and sustain a complex of inferiority in Africans. The program equally propagate a negative image of Africa over the world, and in order to discourage potential investors, tourists, and thereby keep the continent backwards. And the third instrument is NGO. They are there to influence opinion, to focus the attention of African to a specific subject, like religion and so on, which cannot help them to perpetuate the need of help. They used to say that Africans need help permanently to survive. And the West is there to help. The fourth instrument is Bretton Woods institutions. They are partial arbiters. The Western economic power are using them, financing them, to perpetuate their way of seeing the world, to perpetuate the inferiority complex from colonialism. They are there to prevent us from progressing. In fact, where colonialism transformed us into beggars, Bretton Woods institutions are maintaining them in that condition to make us still continue being beggars in this modern world. What a shame. The fifth instrument is multinational corporations. They are the economic arm of the world powers, because when they are, the field is already arranged. The field is ready. It's very important to send people to collect the fruits, like Rio Tinto, ExxonMobil, Bolloré, Lafarge, Nestle, automobile builders, and so on. They help them to win the greatest share of contract with the privilege, because it is also this organization which shape the conditions of all contract in different tenders in the world, and especially the condition that to win a contract, you must have international experiences. That means the new entrepreneur in Africa can never win a tender, can never be a competitor in this world economic, even in his own country. This to make the richest country richer and richer, and Africa poorer and poorer. No. What is a playground and why? The playground is Africa. But with the media, the image of Africa is according to their own view, to their own interest. For example, today we see Africa is rising. Africa is on move. Africa works. Yesterday, the same West power said that Africa is the place not to go. The key question I have to ask, are these statements the reality? Can one assure that Africa now occupies a significant position in the global power in the world? My response is no. We have to see each ground by ground. The first is Demography Playground. We are saying that Africa is occupying a key position. Africa has more than 1 billion inhabitants. And in 2050, Africa is going to be more than 2 billion. This implies that 1 inhabitant in the earth out of 4 will be living in Africa. The problem is that if we don't do something, we cannot have consumer like the world today is needing. We need to create wealth. We need to set politics which can help health distribution. In Western country, we know that the consumer have a higher purchase power. And you know that in Africa, the consumer have very poor. They are near beggars. This means that in this playground, if nothing is done, we are going to lose the battle. If we move to the playground of knowledge, the first should be the literacy rate. And again, Africa is demonstrated the very low literacy rate in the world. This is very bad for Africa. And Africa is growing very fast. The population is growing very fast. In conclusion, again, we are going to lose the battle in this field. And in this field of knowledge, we can measure by patterns. And we are seeing that about patterns is China, which is at the top. The second is the United States of America. The third is Japan. The fourth is Europe. The fifth is Korea. Again, Africa don't exist because our research program is very poor. And we go to the field of research and development. Once again, you have the champion, which is United States of America. The second with is China. The third with is Japan. The fourth with is Europe. Fifth, South Korea. Sixth, India. There is not African country in this field. There is not African country in this field. We are very, very poor. And again, we are going to lose the battle in this field. In the field of natural resources, economic playground, taking first natural resources. Diamond. The top quality diamond producers, Russia, Botswana, Canada, Angola, South Africa, DRC, Republic Democratic of Congo, Namibia, and other countries in which, again, they are African. In this field, we can win the battle, but it's only in terms of potential. It's only in terms of potential because we are lacking knowledge. We already say that investment in research development is very poor. We don't have enough engineers to produce, to invent, to innovate. Again, we are on the way to lose in this battle. But if we change our way to think, there is hope, and we are going to talk about it later on. Even in the World West, the US and Western Europe and Asia have made great progress, very great progress. Africa still be under the ground. I cannot say on the ground because by not progressing, we are regressing. World trade, Africa is justified only 1% of the world trade, and he is going to control 1/3 of the population. We're still controlling only 1% of the world trade. That means even in this playground, Africa is losing the battle or going to lose the battle. In the military playground, we have the key actors today. Name China, United States of America, France, United Kingdom, Russia, which are controlling the vetoes. They are controlling all the decision making in the UN. Even when we have a problem in Africa, we don't have the capacity to solve that problem by ourselves. There is no capacity. We have to go to ask aid from France, from United States, from different countries in the West, from the UN. That means our capacity to be a key player in this world is very, very low. In the information playground, yes, we are far behind. We are far behind. Why? Because the few African channels that are present in Africa in the viewpoint, which can present the viewpoint of Africa, which can develop the pride of Africa. We can make every African be proud. Vox Africa, Africa 24, Africa Number 1, and Africa Cable. These media are boycotted by African decision makers. They are boycotted by African decision makers. Their messages are broadcasted by non-African media everywhere. Advertisement is done on non-African media. We are faced an African that is lost, forsaken in spite of its potential. I can conclude this small part by saying that African is a beggar sitting on a gold mine. Africa is a prisoner holding the key to the prison gate. We have only to conclude that African must change or disappear. African require urgent awakening. African can no longer afford to lag behind. African have a huge population and its immense natural resources are two assets the continent must leverage to win in the battleground of politics, economy, human resources. That we have two weapons which can help us to be one of the key players in the future. It's very important that we seize this opportunity today to wake up and to take action. Africans must take action on all the fronts. The first front to take action is education. African countries must reinvent their educational system in order to promote knowledge, know-how, invention, innovation, and self-management skills, because that are the key to survive in this war of competition. This implies that we have to connect education to the business world. The other thing is to adopt critical thinking as a center of our pedagogy instead of encourage people to accept what we are saying. Developing and teaching context-relevant curricula, refuse or reject the colonial or post-colonial educational program or system. You know, today, no African university feature among the 100 top universities in the world. We have to develop a program for training engineers to transform our commodities. We are not going to train engineers for doing everything. We are going to train engineers according to what we need, according to the need of every area. Agriculture engineer, mining engineer, electronic engineer, and so on. We have to increase our resources for research and development. The third area for action is to be prepared for the exploitation of our soils and other natural resources. Prepare our champion to compete in the world economy. Promoting business champion to be the driving force for other entrepreneurs. Attracting direct investor, buying a lot of incentives. Reorganizing our judicial system to be more efficient, more equitable, building a linkage between our universities and the workplace. In different universities, make sure that the product we are going to put in the market is accepted by the market. It's very important at this level to take control of the exploitation of our natural resources, to take control of our economy with politicians with vision. We can also build a win-win partnership for the exploitation of the natural resources. I know we have weaknesses. That weaknesses can be solved within a given period. For example, in different areas that we don't have capacity, we can, at the first stage, accept to control only 1/3 of the investment in that area, 1/3 of the staff, 1/3 of everything, with a program that in a given time, we have to go to control 50-50. After that, in our planning, we are going to control the 2/3. This is sharing knowledge. This is a so-called win-win game. Governance revolution. Yes, we have copied, or we are copying the Western democracy model. It's a time to think about African democracy model. Africans have one of the best democracy models. We don't have enough time to develop this, but this is very important to think about ourselves. For all these reasons, I am seizing this opportunity to ring the alarm bell for urgent awakening of Africa. Magnify excellence. Give back hope to the young Africa that they cannot go to disappear in the desert because they are going to see a better situation in Western country. And no, one question you have in mind is, all this have to do what with FOKAM Award for Science and Technology. Have you know? I have already expressed the importance of knowledge, the importance of education in our way for progress, in our way for hope. The prize we are giving today is to encourage research, to encourage researchers, to encourage different universities, research institutions to make more effort for our continent. The key problem we have in Africa is the lack of vision. What is vision? Vision is a new world in which the leader is living. His objective is to attract everyone to live in that better world he has created, to live in this new reality. How to take people to that? One of the key vehicles is the education. That means develop relevant teaching tools. And one of relevant teaching tools is the world map, which guide the global vision of each citizen to be ourselves, to design ourselves what we want to be, who we want to be. During my research in different countries in the world, I realized that the key country in the world have its own map. China have its map, which presents China in the center of the world. And every Chinese know that he is in the center of the world. In Australia, it's the same, with a specific word, very different with other words, putting Australia at the top of the world. That means each Australian have to know that he is at the top. United States have his own map. and have developed in the mind of each American. That is the first. Number one, when you see the map we have in Africa, we realize that Europe is sitting on Africa. Even though African is in the middle, no African recognize. That's why I have decided to reshape a new world map for Africa, which presents the reality of Africa, which reflects the true aspirations for ourselves and our continent. In that map, Africa is the center and at the top, and he is controlling his own destiny. I am advocating that this map have to be used in all educational systems in Africa. At conclusion, I am convinced that Africans have the capacity to win all battles and at the end to win the world. We need only to change our way to think, our way to act, our way to believe. We Africans, we need to be proud of us. Thank you.